Hello, and welcome to my Outlaw Rogue Proving Grounds Gold video for the World of Warcraft Legion beta. So these are the talents for the Outlaw Rogue and some of the basic abilities. The one that I wanted to talk about specifically before I got into all of the talents is Roll the Bones. So it's an ability that essentially does no damage, but can provide you with a variety of buffs. There's 6 total buffs, ranging from you gain 40% attack power and 20% leech, to things that are like every time you use combo points, you reduce the cooldown on your main cooldowns. You can roll anywhere from 1 buff to all 6 buffs, and it doesn't seem to be dependent on combo points. Combo points only seem to determine the duration, ranging from 12 seconds to 36. It's going to be one of the core mechanics that causes a lot of frustration in this build for me. It can be amazing, or it can be mediocre to awful. Between the Eyes is one of the finishers that I think it's new, that allows you to basically shoot your gun from range and stun the target. So the key here is that it deals 4 times crit damage when you happen to crit. So there's some interplay with one of the buffs, I think it's called Shark Infested Waters, that increases your crit chance by 40%. So if you happen to get that buff, you obviously want to use Between the Eyes. It does have a 20-second cooldown, but in theory it would do more damage than Run Through, which does 228k at a 5-point usage. However, if it doesn't crit, not as good, right? Add to that, I was using Death from Above, which makes it 50% stronger on the run-through that it applies, which seems to be almost always, for me, the better choice. And you'll kind of see that in the options here for the talents. You can kind of play more into this RNG, or you can kind of shy away and say, you know what, I'll take consistent damage over, the chance of feeling awesome. Additionally, Saber Slash is your filler. Just kind of hits. There is a mechanic here that is important that you need to know, otherwise it's difficult if this doesn't happen. So there's the 35% chance to strike an additional time, making your next pistol shot free. There are talents, which I'll get to in a moment, that interplay with that make it so when that happens, it's awesome. But when it doesn't happen, you're kind of left saying, oh yay, I just stabbed somebody for obviously less than 73k physical because it gets reduced by armor. So, your default filler is Run Through that I mentioned. Default finisher, I should say. It's okay at 5. Anything less than 4 is not worth using, in my opinion. Blade Fury is still there from the old combat days. Just turn it on and start doing your normal rotation to do your AoE. I kind of like that. It's simple. Overall AoE for Outlaw Rogue is pretty strong. So, talents. First row is kind of interesting. You have the option of Ghostly Strike. Strikes an enemy, which I think this was probably called Revealing Strike previously, and deals 40k. The target takes 10% increased damage from your abilities for 15 seconds and rewards a combo point. So in some ways, I like that better because Saber Slash is 50 energy versus 30 energy, but this has the potential of doing much more damage. And with Quick Draw, free uses of your pistol shot granted by Saber Slash now generate 1 additional combo point, and you deal 50% increased damage. So when that's double Saber Slash procs, it's kind of awesome. You get basically 2 more combo points out of it, and you do more damage. So the build that I have right now is really tied into that happening. The other option here is Swordmaster. Saber Slash does a 10% increased chance to strike an additional time. So you're up to 45%. Maybe that's worth it. I don't know. I went Quick Draw because it felt like it's more damage and potential combo points. It worked out eventually. I'm not sure that much of this really matters when it comes down to it because it's so based on Roll the Bones procs. Okay, The next one is basically your movement tier. I took grappling hook. It's kind of neat. I could see people taking acrobatic strikes for the increased melee range. Hit and run, it's a potential DPS increase because the faster you move, the faster you get to your next target. I like the grappling hook, just let me kind of dodge things a little bit better, as you'll see in the video. I dodged some of the little amber orbs by hooking around them. Deeper stratagem, for this tier you have the maximum of 6 combo points. Your finishing moves consume up to 6 combo points, and your finishing moves deal 10% increased damage. Maybe, it might be useful. If I roll, you know, a full 6 on Roll the Bones, you could potentially have it up to, what, 42 seconds? Looks like it increases by 6 seconds per point. Could be nice. Anticipation, you have maximum of 8 combo points. Finisher still consume maximum of 5. I don't see that being useful. I took Vigor because I felt like I needed energy regeneration so that I could build combo points to actually do my finishers. Iron Stomach, most of this doesn't really matter. This is just a healing increase by your Crimson Vial, which is, for Outlaw, you would heal a lot through Crimson Vial when you use it, 42% of your maximum health. And so, for Proving Grounds, none of these matter. Parlay, interesting. It's like a mind control. I didn't bother to use it, but there's also Prey on the Weak. Enemies disabled but you're blind. Take 10%. I don't go into stealth much. I'm probably a bad rogue. I took Dirty Tricks. Didn't really matter because I didn't use these abilities. This next tier gets a little interesting. So this is kind of like, what kind of mini cooldown or sustain do you want? So I chose Cannonball Barrage, which basically helps on a 1-minute cooldown, give you a little burst on AoE situations or even single target. I use it on some of the Shaws. It's decent. If the cooldown was any longer, I'd say it probably isn't, and I'd go for Killing Spree. But one of the main reasons I took it is because it's a 1 minute versus the 2 minutes on Killing Spree. And I think Killing Spree could potentially do more damage, but in AoE situations, I think it actually does less overall to the targets, because you can't, I don't know, you don't guarantee any kill there. Alacrity, great if you can actually maintain that pace of finishing moves enough to keep it up. Sometimes there's rounds where things die. Less so with Outlaw Rogue because, I don't know, sometimes you just go through these droughts where your damage is just really low. The next tier I experimented with pretty heavily. So for those of you who get extremely frustrated with Roll the Bones procs and just say, you know what, I want a consistent amount of damage out of my rogue, Slice and Dice is there. So you can get your 90% increased attack speed for your 36 seconds and play as if Roll the Bones and RNG weren't really a thing. If I were to do any real sort of rating or group composition, I would probably take Slice and Dice. If they don't fix Roll the Bones, I feel like my DPS would vary so wildly that it would be like, why would I bring the Outlaw Rogue? He could be amazing, but he could be awful. Marked for Death gives you those 5 combo points on the target, which I did pretty well with it, but I just couldn't get the ending kill. And it was often because my run through wouldn't do enough damage, which is why I ended up taking Death from Above. The 50% stronger run through is critical for actually killing things. I feel like your finishers are generally pretty weak as combat. Outlaw, sorry. You have options, but there's really, I would almost never use Between the Eyes unless I had that in Shark Infested Waters, which I'd have to realize that I had Shark Infested Waters. This should probably light up when you've got that buff. It's a lot of manual watching of your buffs to do that. I'm sure people will have weak auras, so they'll understand what to do for each permutation of Roll the Bones, if you happen to take it. So that's the talents. It plays pretty straightforward. Do your filler. Use Death from Above if it's not on cooldown. If it is, and you don't have Shark Infested Waters, use Run Through. If you do have Shark Infested Waters and this is off cooldown, use Between the Eyes. If you don't have any buffs, you probably Roll the Bones. I wasn't sure when to use Roll the Bones because it seems like it has the potential of always being the right choice if you get all 6 buffs, but it also has the potential of being the wrong choice based on what it was. So it felt very awkward, and I'm somebody who tries to err on the side of caution, so I tended to not use it unless I didn't have a Roll the Bones buff. It also depended on how much time I had left in the round and what the mob health was at, so that's talents. That's a little bit more in depth than I normally go, but I felt like it warranted it with this spec. Alright. Um, Outlaw Rogue, like I've said before, if you watch the talents, is almost completely RNG based. This took me, I would say, probably somewhere in the order of 50 plus attempts to actually complete. And the attempts were everything from failing at wave 1 to failing at wave 10, where I just couldn't kill the shot because I didn't have enough burst. So there was a lot of experimentation that went on in the making of this, and at some point I'll probably release the outtakes because they are pretty ridiculous. But I want to talk about what I liked about the Outlaw Rogue. I think it's got a really cool pirate theme. Like as you see there, I did some Roll the Bones, and that animation is really neat. It feels piratey. You've got a little pistol, right? It's fresh. It's something that, you know, when I saw combat on live, I was like, yeah, that's kind of boring, you know. But um, I like it because it's so new and different. The weapons look amazing. I think the Dread Blades are one of the coolest artifact weapons that I've seen. Um, you have good AoE through Blade Flurry. Very simple AoE, but it's it's easy. Just press E, do your target rotation, make sure you're in a good place. Um, it has amazing potential. Like I was saying, Roll the Bones can make you a god or it can make you a pleb. It's just real simple that way. Um, the artifact ability actually feels useful. So the way that works is that basically you cut yourself for 5 or you every time you use run through or not run through saber slash or the pistol shot, you will get 5 combo points. So because you've been so emo about not getting any good roll the bones buffs, you cut yourself and get yourself a buff. It does damage to you, but not enough to really matter because you can just use uh, Crimson Vial if you need to, or your healers can heal you for a little bit of damage. It's not that bad. I think Grappling Hook is a really neat movement ability. Again, fits in with the theme really, really well. So, the bad. It's extremely proc-based. There are times when you see me hitting a single target where I'm just like, come on, come on, come on, something happen. And if it weren't for, getting a good death from above, a target wouldn't die. There's a couple waves here that you'll see where I run up to the very end and I'm just praying that I kill a target. There are other times when I kill it with several seconds to spare because either something on the artifact procced or I got a good pistol shot proc or Jolly Roger or all these different buffs and abilities that can make or break you. So because of that, you can theoretically go through droughts where, your single target damage will drop to something on the order of like 40k, whereas other classes are doing 120k single target, right? Where you just feel really lame and weak. And it's, as somebody who likes to do raiding when it's available, I wouldn't want to play this spec unless the tier bonuses made Roll the Bones like guaranteed to be awesome. Like, I don't know. It requires a large amount of focus on your buffs to play optimally. Just pressing Roll the Bones and just doing your normal rotation can work, but to actually play it correctly, I think you're supposed to modify your rotation when things happen. So if I get something that says, oh, additional combo points, so that means I can, I should probably be rolling the bones more, or I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do other than just use more finishers. Maybe it's just that simple. But Shark Infested Waters, I believe, is supposed to modify your rotation to actually include the between the eyes. Run through and the other problem I see here is there's too many finishers, right? There's through the eyes, there's run through, and then there's death from above. Okay, granted that one's a talent, and then there's roll the bone. So you have essentially 4 options, and knowing which one to use is confusing because I was never sure when the right time to use roll the bones is. Is it just if I have 0 or 1 buff with less than X amount of time remaining? I'd love to see how people are going to theory graph the damage that an Outlaw Rogue can or should be doing. I just think the variance there is huge. Even that, though, because your finishers are all physical damage, they feel really, really weak, and there's no like compensating ability for that. You have no poisons, you have no magical damage that I'm aware of that you're doing. You're just doing pure physical. So they're, against high armor targets, not the spec I would want to be using. In terms of my opinions of the spec, I didn't like it, to be honest with you. It was quite the challenge to get this to happen, this gold run, and I was really excited when I did, but it didn't really feel like it was my own skill level that determined it. I mean, yeah, I haven't been playing Rogue for that long, but I thought I did some things right. I could have done a lot of things better, but I would say that the fixes that need to occur are that roll the bones should be modified such that when you roll the bones, the more combo points you use to roll the bones increase the minimum number of dice that you get. At 5, you should at least get 2 or 3. You shouldn't roll the bones for a single buff that increases energy regeneration by 40% or something like that. That doesn't feel powerful or useful. It feels like I just wasted 5 combo points. Other than that, it's very procky, and some people will like that style of gameplay. Not my cup of tea. I like some interaction, but I don't like the amount of thinking I have to do to use it. Now that's just me being lazy, I guess is the correct way to say that, because there's always raid mechanics that you should be focusing on too, but if I'm focusing on raid mechanics and my cooldowns and my buffs that I've got in this spec, I think it's very easy to play it incorrectly. But after 50 attempts, I finally get it here. RNG smiles upon me, and I was so happy once this is completed. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again next time.